All right, guys, welcome to the Kevin Cho Show. And today I will be interviewing Kay because she has a business that I am possibly interested in getting into. And as many of you guys know, I am getting out of the real estate space and I'm in search for something new. And what better to find something that's the best, what better is to find a new opportunity than asking the person that's actually in the business, uh, that's actually in it and operating the business. So, Kay, thank you so much for I know I already got an hour and a half of your time before, but thank you so much for another hour commitment.
Well, thank you for having me, Kevin.
So in this podcast, I do want it to be more of a Q and A because I have as I was on bizbuysell.com yesterday like about for 5 6 hours. I was up until 4 a.m. just like looking at it. And
Mhm.
I'm looking at all the assisted living facilities, and I wanted to kind of ask you some questions that I have so that other people can, get the value out of it because people will eventually ask the same questions. So number one question is there seems to be a different type of residential assisted living facilities, and one of them is residential, like a big house residential, and there's also seems to be like a big facility. So, what's the difference between them, and do they cater to different clients?
So yeah, no, there's actually different sizes. You're right. The residential refers to 6 bed to 16. So different states will, have different regulations on how many residents you can have in your home to consider residential. And then above that will be quote unquote commercial, what you would hear like as big box. But there's this one class that a lot of people are missing, which is the medium size, less than 100 beds, um, still run by like mom and pop.
Okay. And when you say 16 to 16 beds, are you talking 16 bedrooms or 16 beds, regardless of how many bedrooms there are?
16 residents, we would
Oh,
refer to them as residents. So some one room can share two, like double occupancy, but no more than two. There's a limit.
okay. So anything above 100 is the big boy game, right? So
Yeah.
your specialty is the middle one, which is 30, 50.
I would say between 30 to 100 to maybe 150.
Okay. Okay. And these are usually run by mom and pop investors, and they're not like a single family house, right?
Right, right. So when you step into the medium size, it's going to be larger buildings and more rooms to accommodate that many people. But usually these are operated, owned by baby boomers, actually, who are now retiring to go into the assisted living.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, because as I was looking at this myself, there's a section. If you scroll down, there's a section where like reason for selling, and a lot of it was just retirement, like retiring, getting older, and I'm like, okay, where are they gonna stay if you if you sell it?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. And that's where the great opportunities come in, actually. I love residential because of the more intimate, the smaller it is. I get it. It's more family, more like homey, right? That's what I own both, right? I own a 15 and I also own a 65 bed. The smaller obviously feels more homey, like you're just living in a small community home. And bigger ones it feels it just really depends on who runs it, but usually they get the name of like institutionalized.
right.
But it really should be that way if you're in the mid range, you know. But clientele's you serve the same clients, like 65 and older who needs assisted living, like ADLs or activity of daily living,
Yeah.
like bathing, showering, cooking, laundry, all of that stuff.
Okay. And as a if you run a residential between under 16 beds, do clients pay more on those because they get more personalized care and vice versa?
It really depends, Kevin. You can do a luxury style. You can own a really nice, really, really nice home in a really nice neighborhood, and you can charge almost just as much as a big facility, but and big facilities also have a lower end and also the higher end. So it's both, really. Like I can't say one is more than the other. It is actually a misconception. I have seen big facilities that charges, between 4 to 5 thousand, but I also seen one that charges $20,000 per month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. But but then the obviously that includes the food and the care 24/7, and there's always like activities that that happens along in the facility, right?
Yeah, so most of the time, like when you go into an assisted living, that's what it should cover, of course, the assistant that you need, food, medications, and care staff should be 24/7. It should be 24/7. Um, Sometimes in a smaller, not that I'm saying this is the right thing, but I have seen 6 beds that don't have a nighttime staff because it's not really required. So they're a little bit less restrictive on residential versus bigger, like commercial, what you would
I see.
consider.
So the first one you bought, I looked at a couple of your the podcasts that you've been in, and you're like a phenomenal speaker. Like you're very articulate, and I always listen to podcasts at twice the speed, and like sometimes it's hard for me to understand. But like you're so articulate, like your words are like I'm like I actually understand everything. So kudos to you. 15.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually go around in circles a lot, but thank you for that,
Yeah.
for following.
No, no, I truly like enjoy listening to it. So the one that you bought, the first one, 15 bed, you bought it for 1.8 million in San Diego. That was a residential house. That was a single family house, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it actually, yes, it's a single family home, but it's technically two single family homes on one lot.
It's two
So
different buildings.
I have, yeah, so there's just two buildings technically, but it's still residential. A total 5,700 square foot total.
Oh, the house itself is 5,700 square feet.
Yeah,
Com-
two houses on one lot.
Oh, so it's like a 2,700, 2,800 square feet houses, about give and take.
Yeah, approximately. Yeah.
And okay, and then what's the bedroom breakdown of that? Like the bedrooms and the bed.
I have 12 bedrooms. So some are going to be shared and some are private rooms. So yeah, so it's 12 and we're licensed for 15.
Okay. And that one you structured the seller finance and you bought it. I feel like this like deal itself, because I've been in the rest single family home game for the last 4 or 5 years. I understand it a lot more. So you bought the house, but then the house is worth, I don't know, maybe 1.1, but then you add a business on top of it. Maybe that's 700, whatever the numbers. I'm just coming up with a number. But you buy the real estate and the business, then that's the $1.8 million purchase price. And it was already operating before, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So usually when you buy an assisted living, you want the property, right? That's the name of the game. You've got the real estate and the business, and you can get a loan to buy both, and it's just one loan. It's SBA. If it's 5 million and under, it will be 7A, well, SBA 7A loan. And then
Right.
above that will be a 504.
Okay.
And there's other loans out there that are available for, buying a business with property. But yeah, what we used was 7A for 1.8 business and property.
Okay.
And usually, when you're buying a house and then you're that the residential home that's generating that much money, obviously they don't even really look so much about the cost of the home. Is all about the debt service. Like I can even charge, it's funny because the same size, I was just telling you the other day that there was a facility, same size, 15 bed. I bought mine for 1.8. She sold hers for 3.5 million.
Right.
Like because she's generating money and it can still cover the cost of the debt, right? So really when you step into something that generates money or income, the bank's really looking at if the income will cover the debt service.
Yes, yes. And for you in your case, there was so much room, right? That you bought it for you 1.8 and you did a seller, you did a 90% SBA and then you did a 10% down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For
Uh
this, yeah, we did 10% down and then some seller carry.
okay. I was just kind of curious because I'm looking as I'm looking at base by sell, I'm looking at the residential and I'm like, do I want to get into the residential? I feel like I'm back in the real estate game, and I'm trying my best to kind of get into the business side of things. But do you recommend for people to get into the residential side so they get the hang of it and then move on to a bigger facility like a 65 one?
Yeah, I can see why you would want to start smaller. Again, like what you were saying, you own multiple homes already, right? Like you have multiple, and then when you're managing different locations, there's a lot of work that goes into multiple single family homes.
Right.
Same thing with assisted living. If you want to start residential, if you have multiple six beds, now can that make a life changing? Can that be a life changing income? Absolutely, right? Just your personal goal. And at the same time, again, you're talking about six locations or five locations. So you're doing the same amount of work running around, or you can just focus on the medium size, spend the same amount of effort in
Right.
one location, but you can serve so many more seniors in one location.
Right. And I'm sure you can when you have a higher profit margin on a bigger unit, you can spend more money on like I saw you guys doing that. You guys decorated for Halloween. Like that was awesome. But if you have a smaller one, I'm sure and and your budget's tighter, then you can't do those certain things.
Yes. Well, just think about it this way. You have, let's say, a six bed. I'm just giving an example because I'm from California and that's usually the number, right? A six bed facility. When you lose one's resident, and mine, I have to talk about that because, this is their long-term stay and people do pass away in your home. That's going to happen. And we can talk about that later. When you lose one resident, that's 1/6 of your income
Right.
versus 15, that's 1/16. So it's not such a big dent, but then you'll be a little bit worried about hurry up and getting the next. And that's when you need to start building your waiting list, obviously. But yeah, 1/6 of an income, that's huge. But yeah, no, you have more profit margin to even give a really good salary to your manager so that you don't have to do everything yourself and wearing all the hats and you have enough profit margin to hire somebody to do most of the work.
I see. I would love to see the team structure of how like so you got the manager slash administrator who gets a certificate to operate, right? But then also you have a nurses that, are there 24/7. And how many do you need and what's their how much do you pay them and like what are their certain roles?
Yeah. So in California for assisted living, it's non-medical. So you actually don't need a nurse. We call them care staff or caregivers, right?
Right.
And they're just a training on site. There's no certification. They're not even a CNA or certified nurse aide. They're just a regular person that's trained on to help with, because we're non-medical, we're not going to be performing anything medical. Um, Administrator, again, you could just get your certificate attending like an 80-hour course in California. It's a little bit different in other states. And I know that some states might require to have a nurse on site, but in California, you don't. And what I have is administrator,
Okay.
who is slash manager, and I have three caregivers, care staff during the day, and I have one wait staff during the night. I think that setup, it's perfect. And you think like, oh my God, one person watching over 15. Well, most of them should be asleep, right? And
Right.
they should be awake, but just in case, you want to make sure that you have somebody awake at night doing their rounds every 2 hours. I make that very strict. You have to, because we also specialize in memory care, and some of them forget, right? They don't know where their room is, or like they just, get confused. So you want to have a night staff for sure. And the ratio, I would say, 5 to 8 would be a good number for like one staff per 5 to 8 residents. The bigger you go, and I know that big box facilities, they're known to have like one staff for 20 residents, which is terrible because you just don't have time to do everything
Right.
or all the residents that you have. So medium size is still, again, like I said, because they're just still owned by baby boomers who care about their business, right? So they make sure that the ratios stay in a safe, residents and staff ratio.
I see, I see. That's interesting to know. Okay, so three caregivers, while they're not sleeping, and then one caregiver for the entire 15 people, but they should be sleeping
At
anyway.
nighttime. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Do they have to sleep?
Was that?
Do they have to sleep?
Well, no, no, no. Sorry. The three caregivers are awake during the day. That's a day shift. Night shift is a wake staff also. Then that person has to stay awake. They can't sleep.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm talking about the residents. Do they like what if it's
Oh,
like a
do they
party?
have to sleep? Well, they don't, but sleep is actually one of the biggest things. Sleep is so important for most of these residents. And at certain age, sleep is just their thing. They just love to sleep, first of all. So, and they do sleep most of the time. And if they don't, if somebody has memory issues, the following day is going to be a nightmare. So you want to make sure that they do get a good night's sleep.
Okay, I'm just curious. Like there might be like a 75-year-old grandma that's party animals. Like I still want to party, you know?
we do want to we accommodate them, but not too late because if you're disturbing your neighbors, but yeah, no, most of everybody sleeps at night for sure.
So I mean, if there are any like issues with the tenants, what would it be? Like I'm sure like they're not gonna damage the house. Like what is, do you have any tenant issues that like I would have normally had if it was like an Airbnb?
No, actually, you're not ever gonna have issues the same way as you would do like rental. Yeah. Though we never really have tenant issues per se because you have a full-time staff. Like if there is any issue, your staff should mitigate or should de-escalate anything that could happen already, right? But I know that in a rental or Airbnb, it's about like people destroying your toilets or whatever, or like your properties. You don't get that a lot actually in assisted living. These are they're more fragile, and this is like their home. They're just living in the home, and you also have staff that assist them, kind of pretty much 24/7. So you don't have a crazy person that's going to be destroying your stuff, and so we don't have to replace a lot of these things.
How how is it? So I'm sorry, maybe this is wrong verbiage, but like the tenant turnovers, like how often is that? Not very
Um,
often.
it's actually the most stable you would say when it comes to that because they move in because they need help already. That means there's no turning back for the most part. Okay, like most of our seniors move in because they hit a certain age, they need a lot of help, and they come into us. And this is usually, I would say, their last stop, and they will be here. You're averaging between 1 to 3 years in their stay. That's averaging. So that's really good. Like you don't have a lot of turnovers. Most of the time is really stable. When they're in, you know that they're going to be in here for a long time.
Right, right, right. Okay. And then when you do have a turnover, like I imagine you told me on the phone that there are like 1.1 million beds short or something like that. So is there like a waiting list that you have or do they get filled up pretty quickly?
Yeah, so I do have a waiting list, and I typically, and it's funny because I'm not that super business savvy. I don't have a long waiting list, but I do have a pretty good reputation with the skilled nursing around here and actually word of mouth. That's why location matters, really, really matters. And we can fill the bed within a week or two, right? And there are times where I wouldn't put people on a waiting list because a lot of the times when the seniors are out there looking, they're looking because there's pain. They're not looking like I'm gonna shop for a car and I'm gonna take my time buying a car. That's not like that. It's
Right.
like I'm moving in because I need it now. So I typically would help my residents. Like if I can't fit them in, I build relationships with other owners around here and I know that I trust. So where I would even spend the time to call them if they have an openings and refer them to, other owners that I know. But yes, you should have a good practice is you should have a waiting list and you kind of gauge them how soon are you looking to move. I don't have an opening now, but would you like to be on the waiting list? And they typically do if they don't need it right away. Some of them will wait a couple months and they can do that.
Do
But
you
yeah, you should have a waiting list.
do you what kind of clients do you I know I know it's your operation is very hands-on, so but like what kind of clients do most operators turn down? Like clients that have temper issues or dementia?
Yeah, so it really, yeah, so assisted living really is just assist. Like you're not medical, so you don't want to put anyone who has an active, like if they're super agitated, which you will get with memory care. Some people don't even take memory care at all. And if you are going to provide some sort of memory care services, you should train your staff. And so knowing how to talk to them, knowing how to care for them, how to redirect. And it just really depends on which clients but typically we won't get anyone who's consistently agitated until they're seen by their doctor and get their medication adjusted and their behaviors are manageable. That's who I would take. And honestly, it sucks for me to say this because my background is a nurse. So I'm just gravitates toward the higher acuities, which means higher needs. Just because I kind of have a background, I know how to handle, I know how to speak to the doctor and get the care that they need. Because if they get turned away from other facilities, they are going to have a hard time looking for a place. And if I don't take them, I feel kind of almost responsible to like I would do everything that I can, and I have had really really difficult cases that I've taken, and they had moved from one facility, and I was a fourth facility, and they stayed with me until the end. So again, most people don't. Okay, for many reasons, liability reasons, and of course the staffing, if they are experienced with that or not. But typically, when the clients that you're looking to move into like a regular home is just someone who needs assistant with ADLs.
Okay. The
Yeah.
activity of daily living. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Got it, got it. Okay, so I want to go back to the how you underwrote the deal because it's so fascinating to me that you would buy all these businesses and assisted living, this is your third business that you bought, right? Prior to getting into this business specifically. So like it's fascinating that you get into all these businesses without having any prior experience. How did you underwrite how much it was going to make? Obviously, you looked at the P&Ls and you know how much it was how long it's been performing and how many, how long the tenants have been there. But do you like is there a certain like okay, so if I buy a 16 bedroom, 16 bed facility in San Diego, I know it's each 16 one bed can bring in 4,000, 5,000. Like, do you have I mean, is it each county different and state?
Yeah, no, each location probably differs slightly. I would say just because I operate in California, different Northern California may be a different price. It's very area specific, like I was saying. When I underwrite, this is unprofessional, unlicensed. Okay, so it's more like a guessing game kind of thing. But we kind
It's a
of,
gamble.
huh?
It's a gamble.
Yeah, it's a gamble. So I usually just look at the top number, which is the gross profit margin. Like what is their income? They're generating income. And then they will always have an EBITDA or, like, or their net cash flow that they claim that they make. And I just do a quick like napkin underwriting. Okay, if they're making this much, if I was to take a traditional loan, which, SBA 10% down, 90% bank, and then you just do an SBA calculator. Okay, you go in there.
I was doing that last
Yeah.
night. Like, how long?
So
Like how? I was so curious how long your loans were. Is it 10 years, 25 years?
So if it's with property, it's 25 years.
Okay.
And if it's just business only, it's 10 years.
Okay. 25 years. Okay. So it's basically very similar to underwriting a single family house. You got to be like, okay, I got to put this much down. And matter of fact, are there lien positions? So like, is SBA in first position and then seller finance second?
Yes. Yeah. And yes, yes, exactly. So same with real estate. It's very, very similar, obviously. So your bank slash SBA, yes, they're the first. And SBA is like a third person behind. It's the bank that's doing the SBA loan, government backed loan kind of thing. So your bank is your first lien.
Okay.
Right? Just like a real estate, when you were buying, like if you're buying a home, it's Bank of America or whatever it is, they're the first lien. And then if there is a seller carry, depending on the notes that they're carrying, some of them don't even have a lien on the property, and we didn't. It was just a note, and it was like good faith,
Okay.
right? It was. I know it's scary to think that people are willing. I mean, but again, so depends. If it's a larger note, obviously there is, but there is a stipulation in there, like if you don't pay, we can come back and get your business and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just you want to stay out of trouble. You want to practice your business ethically,
Right.
and obviously, yeah. So this one so typically that's how we would calculate. Just kind of go back how I underwrite. I just get the top number, and I want to see how much they're netting, and just to verify that, like if you were to use the calculator, SBA loan calculator.
Right.
Worst case scenario, we bring a traditional way of financing, okay? Because we're not the cool kids and we're like, okay, I'm going to bring just a regular. How much would that be monthly payment? So you get your net and see if that's enough to pay for your loan,
Right. Right.
right? And if it doesn't, now you start thinking, well, let's see if we can do something creative with the seller and see if they carry this much, or if we bring the loan down, whatever. So you can create a different structure to make it work. So that doesn't mean just because you do the calculator and you're like, well, this is not enough to pay for the loan, it doesn't mean it's a no-go. You just show that to the seller, and typically they're really open. There's a lot of businesses for sale. Most of it are some sort of creative.
Right. Right. But then also, okay, so let's just say your debt structure. I'm just throwing out numbers here, $1.8 million dollars. Like let's say your debt payment, your loan servicing is 10,000 a month. Like you need to figure out, okay, how much is this facility going to generate? So like I'm sure nine majority of the income from the business comes from the beds, how many beds are occupied. So you will look at would you call up other assisted living facilities and say, hey, how much is your one bed cost? Or is it like one bedroom, like one bedroom in one bed, or is it one bed share bedroom in one bed? Like what's the cost for going for those? And would you kind of is that how you would calculate your income?
No, so when you buy a business during your due diligence, they do have records of how much they're actually charging their residents. So that's going to be your most real numbers that you can calculate whether or not that is it's going to be a sustainable. So you before this, we didn't know the actual average price around this area. So I had to just kind of go off of what he had. And so I did the average cost for each bed and then how much they were generating. And also I did see what all of their expenses, like you have to see all of that. And you will get this when you enter into obviously an interest in the business and sign in whatever an NDA. They will disclose how much they're making. This is what they're spent on, all their expenses, and this is their net. So we kind of just look at all of that. Some of them would, again, some numbers you just kind of have to kind of guesstimate. You're never going to get like the right amount, especially when you're buying a business from baby boomers. They like, oh, repairs 10,000. Like, wait, what? Or like landscaping. There's an extra cost somewhere that is kind of like outliers. So, but
Right.
just typically, you can even Google this, like minimum wage in California, right? And so you kind of calculate, and they will show you how many staff they have on payroll. You can see, all of these, you can have records of them. So obviously, the biggest thing is to verify their income. You ask for the rent roll. That's what they call rent rolls, right? You see month to month, 12 months, T12. So
Right.
12 months, they bring in this much just to see the consistency of this business. If they can't even provide that, then obviously there's a red flag there, right? You want to see 12 months of their rent roll. They should have this. Like now you can see their average cost of rent per person or per resident per month. And then
But
once you get that, you can get the gross profit.
right. And then obviously you structure the debt, seller finance however it makes sense. My question is, how do you know if one bed is under market?
You know, First you can go to Gensworth.com, Gensworth, like the I have to double check what that website is, but you can see per location, you can see the average per bed should cost to live in assisted living. So you start off with that, Jensworth, I think.com. You can see that for your location, put your zip code in, and it can show that. Is that 100% accurate? Absolutely not. And I can see, from seeing so many deals, it's not, but it's close enough.
Okay.
Okay. And then when they're like, and you can even shop around too. You can do secret shopper, calling other facility, like
Right.
you're looking for, right, for a home for your mom or grandma, and to just see how much they're charging from the nice
And
one to
their occupancy, right? Like if they're like 50% occupied, then it's probably like too expensive or not as good, which is the reason why people are not occupying it.
yes, the occupancy, yes, you're right. So obviously the number of their occupancy really just shows how they're performing, obviously.
I see. But if I know you have a mix of private clients and you also have government, Medicare, Medicaid. If somebody was like, I want to rent it out to strictly government, they're like, I want 50% of my clients to be Medicare and Medicaid clients. Where would there, is there a website where like, okay, the government will pay X amount for one bed in this San Diego County, right?
Yes. So different states, I don't know how it is a little bit of a work to look for these numbers, how much each state would pay. And I know they have such a bad rep saying that, oh, they pay so low, it wouldn't even work. Um, it just depends on the states. California, the government will pay up like average $6,000 per person. And so this one is called assisted living waiver in California. I don't know what's the name of other state, but I know California is called the assisted living waiver program. And then you can see for each tier, meaning the care needs that resident require, it will show you exactly how much they're paying for each resident.
Oh wow. Okay. That's so straightforward then, because you have to all you have to do is okay, if it's if there's if the owner's selling for 3 million and you know how the debt structure is gonna be, and you just look at how many beds are filled and how many of them are occupied if they're under market rented, and then okay, that makes good sense.
Yeah, and just to point out on that, just because they're underperforming, it doesn't mean that it's a bad deal. It could be just a poorly operated or poorly managed, and that happens all the time, right? That's our second facility. It was completely upside down, and we turned it around. And again, it really depends. If your market, you got to study that area. If they have big box facilities and they're doing well, that's a pretty good sign that that area should perform well. So why did this person didn't perform well? What's the issues? It could be they might be sick. The owner is, sick and not really in the facility anymore, or the manager, whatever it may be. Like that is should be the only like it's not a definite indicator that I'm not going to buy that deal just because they're only have 50% occupancy.
Right, right. So I know it's you said on the phone call on your on your second facility you said it was going to be months to turn flip that upside down, but you were able to do it in less 30 days or less. What's like usually the biggest expenses that previous owners have that um that's that they're missing out on?
Um, so yeah, so the biggest there were little things. It's more of the little things that all the like an inflated cost and kind of all the item lines. And if the owner is not there to really know your expenses, like food shouldn't cost that much, but they'll go, a lot of it went to food and then a lot of overtime. And you're wondering why there's a lot of overtime over here, right? So those are the two big things that I saw that you could just trim off the fat and see. It wasn't just the money issues, it was also the biggest was actually the staffing issues. They have such a high turnover, and then you're trying to figure out why is there such a high turnover. So fix that first, and then I fix the extra things where the cost of
Mm.
like even for example, electricity, that was like thousands. I'm like, why are they paying $12,000? So because there was a leak, there was a water leak, and then there was just the lighting, just in general. It would just, I don't know, it would just kind of seeing those little things. But the biggest things that happens in the assisted living, why they go sideways, is staffing.
Because people don't want to work there? Are you talking about
Well,
the
it
manager
starts
or
from the top, really. It really starts from the top. If you have a bad manager, operator, right, and then you don't treat your people well, this is a people business. If you can't treat people like people, no one's going to want to work with you. It doesn't matter how nice your facility is. It doesn't matter how much money. Like eventually, it's going to affect this business, and your client's going to move out. They might move in because of the extra things that you can sell on, but then once people move in and they realize it's not a good place, they will move out. Same with your staff.
right,
If Yeah, so I think yeah, it's just more of the management issues, and I don't think because the owner had already moved on, and this was strictly they had a huge turnover of management, so it's just one person after another, and there was just no stability for the core staff.
right. Okay, and then that affects the quality of the everything trickles down the
Yeah.
caregivers. Okay, so you just have so right now you have one manager on your for all your assisted living, and then or do managers have like 8 hour shifts, 8 hour shifts, 8 hour shifts?
So the manager, I only have one manager during the daytime. I
Okay,
only have a lead, I would say a lead person during the night.
okay,
Um, But again, it's like a 9 to 5 working hour of your management, right? But there is an on call. Now, if you have a good system, you shouldn't be getting crazy calls at night. Like the training of your staff is so important. So I don't get calls at night, even though I don't have a manager at night. But
right,
she'll get a call every now and then. Don't say that it don't we're not gonna say that we don't ever get it. There's, things that happen at night. Don't get me wrong. But you want to have a good training, good system, good protocols so that when these things happen, you don't get your phone doesn't go off the whatever to get these little things.
right. What would you say is the best market? I mean, obviously you're, in in San Diego, but like what have you heard from other like if you were to invest in other markets, where would you invest in?
I like Texas and I like Arizona. And I've seen just because of the numbers of
Retirement.
residents you can have in a residential home, like Arizona, you can have up to 10. And then Texas, you can have up to 16. And why I say that really matters because in this day and age, like everything just costs so much. As a six bed, they're really having no, unless you're in a really, really nice neighborhood and you can charge top dollars, they are having a hard time, mind you, to make the numbers work. Okay, because the houses are so much more expensive, right? Payroll is more expensive. But if you're in the 10 and above, you're in a safe spot. Like you have enough profit margin to obviously cover all your costs and still would not be sweaty if you're losing one resident.
Right. I'm looking at one. I was just scrolling through Biz Buy Sell, and there's two 16-bed licensed assisted living facilities in Texas, like upwards of Houston, Texas. But then it was so rural, like there's nothing there. Do you factor that in? Even though it's like 30 miles from the big city like Houston, do you factor that in? Because like I looked at the street map, there's like no other residences nearby.
I do absolutely. I mean, and they still have needs, right? I have seen deals that comes on that's in a rural area. I'm like, how am I going to make it work? How do I know? But then I look at her historically, they should show you 3 years in taxes. If she was able to sustain a certain amount of residents, then you can say that, okay, then you'll be safe because they have needs everywhere, right? Even the rural area, like, the grandmas and grandpas live out there too. So would I be like, oh, let's jump in? No, but I will take these things in consideration and how they have been performing for
Right.
sure. And especially these homes have been running for at least 10, 15, 20 years, right? Most of them, like, again, now there's like 20 minimum average is 20 years they've been operating. Okay, well, they have already gone through recession. They've already gone through, this whole
Mhm.
economy changes and they made it through. So we're going to be okay. That's kind of how I see that for assisted living. I don't know about other business.
What's your um so for me, I'm really wait, now that I've sold my rentals and I sold all my rentals as a business, not real estate. And my goal is one of the things that I factor into when I'm ever now that I'm going into buying businesses is like your exit, right? Like because you want to buy a business and build it and possibly package them in a way that is sellable down the road. So like so it would make more sense for you to buy only in San Diego or maybe one other area where you just kind of do two markets or maybe upwards of three and you just kind of grow in that market so it's sellable because if you have like 17 assisted living facilities in 17 different states, that's kind of a tough business to sell. So like what's your plan on like making the business like if you were to exit it, like what would be your exit strategy?
Well, the perfect exit strategy is again having multiple in one area, in one location. Not only you become specialized in your location, your niche, you're going to get so good at it and you can leverage your management, your staff, right? And that seems more enticing for investor to come in just one market and you have five medium-sized, let's say, facilities and you just package it up to sell it to bigger corporations, like if you're just doing one, your buyers are still limited. But if you package it up
Right,
and
right,
sell it to, now you're talking about 20, $50 million, maybe it'll be easier to find buyers in that, I guess, what do you call that? That tier.
right. Okay.
That's my goal. But at the same time, I still want to do this until really like I don't know if I would ever stop doing this. I want to be involved in it because I just enjoy it. I might even save one where it's my own home just to keep myself doing something.
Right, right. I feel like you will eventually get to a point where if you have hundreds of beds, the care that you can give to each client obviously goes down because you're one person. So it's definitely interesting to see how that's gonna play out. And I've no doubt that you'll be able to you'll have great culture in all your facilities, but obviously I think the care that you give to I mean obviously this 1 hour time that I have with you is so valuable. I'm just asking you all these questions. But okay, I think that's about all the questions that I had. You already told me if I ever want if you want to buy one, you just go to, business for sale and maybe I mean assisted living is just one of many businesses that people can buy and that's just that you just wanted to tap into that just because you come from a nursing background. But That is so interesting. Okay. I think I'm just looking through all the notes because I've come up with all the questions last night. One
And
thing.
Kevin, when you said looking for biz buy sell, you can also contact the sellers directly too, like almost cold calling, like what you were doing before for your
Right.
homes, right? But again, yes, so you can. I still do that now. I contact the owners directly. I try to look for who's the owner on LinkedIn. I try to connect with them and
Okay.
just to see, if they would be interested, but also figure out how long they've been owning it. Like if they just bought it, obviously they're not interested in selling, but you never know.
Okay. Okay. Um, Curious. This is more of a biz buy sell question, but if a business was for sale and it got taken down, how do we? Is there a way to find that kind of information?
That I don't know. Yeah, not biz buy sell.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of websites that sell
Biz
businesses.
buy sell, yes. And then what is the other one? Craxy. Um, there's a couple more. That's LoopNet also have some too, but not a lot.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're looking at the ones that I'm looking at. Um, yeah, okay. Oh, one more thing. So if you reach out to the broker and what's do you ever get pushback like when you first started, when you bought your first 15 bed, did you ever get a pushback from the broker or did you buy it
Yeah.
from the seller?
Yeah. No, at the beginning, obviously, you are going to get a little bit of pushback. They're always, because they have a lot of inquiries and they don't want to just answer all these calls. They typically ask, do you have experience kind of thing? And they kind of, the brokers, they think that you need experience, but you really don't. But you can really overcome every phone calls I make. Yes, you're going to get turned down, but every phone calls I have gotten and got turned down, I learned everything from it. So I tweak the way I answer or call, right? And then I would just say, oh, me and my partner who's in the assisted living is looking to expand in this market. So you overcome the experience and you give yourself a little bit of credibility. Sometimes in this game, you do have to go because the broker doesn't always know. Actually, a lot of time you've been doing this a lot with your real estate deals. Like brokers, no offense, but they don't always know what's best for their sellers. I've at the end of the day, I've bought deals where the seller's like, well, I wish you would have contacted me directly because this should have been sold 10 months ago. And the broker would just, again, I call them cock block, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Oh,
they are
you
like
can
they
say
think,
whatever you want here.
huh?
You can say whatever you want.
But yeah, like like you just have overcoming that broker. But yes, after a while, after I've been calling them, I can kind of hear the same thing over and over. So I kind of know what to say. But yes, you're gonna need to just make that first phone call so you know how to answer the next guy and then start building relationship with the brokers. Because if they know you're in the market to buy, they will start sending you deals.
I mean, do you think there are limit? I mean, so business brokers, do they like only really specialize in one type of asset? It's like assisted living broker. Like, do they only specialize in that, or do you think they most specialize in multiple businesses?
I've seen brokers that sell different kinds of business, but the ones that I've seen for seniors, they typically focuses on senior housing, senior living.
Do you have a lot of are there a lot of buyers for that? I know I asked you that, but there's not many, right?
No, actually, it's become a little more competitive for sure. It's something that like assisted living has been getting the names out. So now, so instead of just one, like when I first bought mine, there were only two buyers or potential buyers, me and the other person.
Oh,
And
that got through the NDA or that the broker gave out the information to?
got through the NDA.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yes. So and it was like a lot less. That was like 3 years ago, right? But now, like we sent the NDAs, it's like now they're a little bit like turn off. They're like, oh, do you have experience? And now I need to see proof of funds. Like they get a little trying to get more how do you say that? Like
Get you the
filter out the flakers or whatever. So they add more requirements. But before we just signed the NDA and then you get to meet with the seller and tour the facility so easily. But now there's a lot more for sure. So I mean, but not all deals are deals, and you know that you just got to see if that specific area makes sense.
Your first and second deal, how long did it take you to close? Like the moment you called the broker to the day you close on it, how long did it take for both of them?
July, no, August. Okay, yeah, so like a month. So I saw the deal, and then I told the broker, hey, let's set a phone call with the seller. And then after the phone call, we meet in person a week after that. And then 2 weeks after that, we signed like an agreement, like a non-binding LOI already. So I move fast. For me, if I really like something, you got to move fast. I
Yeah.
heard somebody said you can't get rich slow. So I was like, I'm going to move fast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I move really quick and I like to meet people in person. I don't like to do things like, and we did drive there. Like it was an 8 hour drive and we just drove there to meet with the seller. Now I'm sure you can do Zoom. Not every, not every situation you can do that, but we closed that one probably, let's see, we close in September, so August, within 30 days. We pretty much, but officially closed was actually November 1st. So how many is that? August, September, October, November. Only because we were waiting for licensing, but the deals was already signed. We already agreed on the terms and the sheet. And why we were able to do that fast, I think, is the relationship. Like it's the rapport that you build with the sellers and finding what their pain point. And that's the biggest, most important thing about doing a deal. And if the broker gets in the way, and that's when things get a little difficult to navigate. So I'm glad that that broker was like, go meet them, do whatever you need to do because so
You know what? I'm gonna set up a system where I'm gonna pull up all the assisted living facilities in the entire country, and I'm gonna send a letter of intents to see if they want to sell, and I'm gonna bring them to you. The thing is, I already have the real estate system back, everything on the back end figured out. Like I can send out as many emails as I want. I can send out as many messages. I can make the calls. I can send direct mails. And I should just send it to him and say, hey, Kate, what do you think about this? Well, obviously, like you're more focused on California, but I'm just like that's something that gets me excited because, like, as someone that's scaled a wholesale operation to, I just did my 200th creative finance deal last Thursday, and I'm like, I know what the system is required for me to get all these opportunities. And if I don't think anybody like that's in the assisted living facilities going after sending out all those letter of intents all the time. So might be doing.
yeah. Yeah, same. Yeah, so it would work. It's all about the numbers game then at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if I know we're almost coming into an hour. I do I'm super interested in this because it is combination of real estate which I'm super familiar with at the same time business which like is not I'm not so familiar with. So I don't want to go all into business because at the end of the day some components of real estate is what makes me feel comfortable going into this. Number one, people that are watching, would if somebody were to bring the deal to you, you would be able to, I mean, with the expertise you have, you could probably just buy the deal from them, like you wholesale the deal. Like, would you ever do that?
If it depends though, if it's like a different location outside my backyard, then I would like to partner with people who bring the deal. Like, why not, or find somebody in that location.
Right, right.
And you can. So if it's a deal here in California, because again, I really want to get good at this market, I would buy the deal, yes. But for out of state, I would like to partner up with people who are in that market already, because I mean, there's just be realistic. I can't fly to everywhere, and as much as I want to say it was so hands off, it's not. Like, especially when you're taking over, you don't know what the issue is, you don't know how, you could fix the issue. So having somebody there to get it fixed until we get it more hands off, we need a team. So for me, that's my ideal, is to partner up with people out of state.
I see. I see. Okay. Got it. So, so right now you're looking to actively raise more money to take down more opportunities. So if somebody was like, somebody's like, I want to get into it. I don't have time, but I want to put money into it. And they can just, I don't know, how do they reach out to you? Like,
Yes, yeah. So you can reach out to, I'm on Instagram, K Kabugo,
okay.
or
Is it
or Facebook. Yes.
okay? It's literally your first and last name.
Yeah, just my first and last name. And just send the deal through. I check my DMs and messages all the time.
Okay.
So yes. And we always raising, well, obviously we're always looking at deals. And right now we have two deals that we're raising money for. It's a medium size, good, stable business, and it's a huge upside. So we're always looking for partners, investors who don't really want to work it, but we're good operators in California.
Perfect. Perfect. And then yeah, so send all the mid-size facilities, and then if you guys have money to invest. One more question. So if I want to get started with this, do you think I should get into the residential or the commercial space of assisted living?
I really, like I said, honestly, I would just say the medium size. Just because of your experience, just because I kind of know your experience. You already did the grind. You already know you got the, like you're not afraid to work. And
Right.
that's just what it is about this business. And learning in the small and the big is really the same learning curve. Like I can't say, so why waste in the small? And I'm not looking down at that because you can, like I said, you can just start with small and you can buy two, three in one location, put one manager in there, and you don't have to do everything yourself. But yeah, for me, I think the medium size, because again, those are the baby boomers who are retiring.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. There you guys have it. Kay, thank you so much for once again, another 1 hour of your time. I super appreciate it. Guys, send her all the opportunities because this podcast will get, well, I legitimately think this will get close to a couple thousands in the first few weeks, or hopefully. I think this was one of the best ones I've recorded because I get so much out of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. That was
All
fun.
right, guys. See you guys later.